In the middle, yes.
I want to thank this young man because when I told him I was 81, he said, "Sir, sit down before you fall down."
Oh, you look good though, bro. You don't look
you.
a day over 50. Come on, man.
I came to this area when I was 75, 6 years ago.
Oh,
And I saw a sign that said Nanny Helen Burroughs.
yes.
I was embarrassed because I'd never heard of her. So I have established a project called the Nanny Helen Burroughs Project. So over studying her for 5 years, I found she started Woman's Day in the Baptist Church in 1907.
Right.
In 1934, she was on Pennsylvania Avenue with 70 blacks with ropes around their necks saying, "We've got enough Negroes here to make Pennsylvania Avenue tremble tonight." So we talk about other people not taking us out of history.
Right.
Why have we not written ourselves into history? So I guess I say that my project looks at Frederick Douglass. He said, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men."
Right.
And Nanny said, "A race rises on its own wings or is held down by its own weight." So then my question is, why do we not talk about these powerful women in our lives? And secondly, what impact is free education at the community colleges going to have on our HBCUs?
Yeah, the second one first. That's going to be real tight right there. A lot of people have hit Obama on that without checking with the HBCUs first, you know, because a lot of Obama's policies with the loan program, remember that? And the loan program meant retroactively they went back and looked at if your mama's credit was bad, then she couldn't get no money, therefore your loan was messed up, therefore you couldn't go to college. Now this is, even if it's unintended impact, is still, the consequence has been negative to black people. So you want to say, but do you have anybody talking to you? Who are you speaking to? But if your circle doesn't include people about issues you think are important, ain't nobody there. Now, we know Valerie Jarrett is there. She's there. She might not be, for everybody's liking, the necessary gatekeeper, right? We know she's doing a tremendous job. She's doing hard work. Obama in Indonesia, she in Iran, as they grow up, right? That might be a different experience. More universal and global one, but you might not have the particulars of the Negroes on the local level down. Now, I'm not trying to suggest Valerie Jarrett don't know Negroes. I'm saying that knowing Negroes is more than being black. You got to study, think, open yourself up to them. And Valerie Jarrett's understanding is critical and important and vital, but other people's might be brought in to consult as well. Because look, Obama knows a lot of stuff, but he brings in experts on economics, brings an expert in on war, brings an expert in on everything else but black people. You ain't the expert on black people. You see, Dr. Kevin already told you it's a complicated story. You done studied it, you done talked about it, but you're not an African American in the same way that other black people are. We ain't dissing you because we love you, we adopt you, we understand you. But you do a little tricky thing to us every now and again. It's kind of complicated. So we got to be honest about that. So the HBCUs will be, I don't want to say they're devastated, they are quite worried about the non-consultation with the Obama administration before the assertion that 2 years of, education will be free for those in community colleges. As for the black women, look, I talked about sexism, misogyny, and patriarchy earlier. Let's add femophobia. It's a term I came up with. It's like homophobia, you scared of gay people. Just scared of women. Femophobic. Like when women show up, you just get scared. Right? We got a phobia against women, right? And then we think women are doing better. Even the president with My Brother's Keeper, the sisters are hard pressed too, Doc. They're in trouble too. Women are everything that happened to the young black boys plus some other stuff. So we have to talk about it. Kimberly Crenshaw from Columbia University just released a report talking about the horrible state of black girls and young women. And guess this, a lot of people who are unarmed who are being killed by the police are women. They're invisible. We're writing our own invisible man for our own women. And it starts in the church. I told you that story about the man who's talking about women know their place. I used to go to some churches, a woman couldn't even come up on the pulpit. What kind of ignorance is that? She will desecrate it. Really? Just by being there? And you know how hypocritical we are, because the very thing we chase away. Y'all ain't ready for that. That's all right. That's all right. Y'all ain't ready for that. I'm going to leave it alone, but you know what I'm saying. So women have been, we mad at gangster rap, but at least with gangster rap, we know what they think about women. But the church thinks the same thing, it just dresses it up. We believe in ecclesiastical apartheid. 75% of the black church is black women. If black women can't run the church, they numerically dominate. You know? And I know we want to compensate for men. Oh, our men need a place to come. But they don't need a place to come to dog you. And they don't need a place to come to ignore you, because there's other places where that's already going on. So the question is, how do we contend with our own blindness? Problematic term in its own right, but how do we contend with our failure to recognize and engage female citizenship, female authority? Nannie Helen Burroughs was great. Of course, we knew her coming up in the Baptist church in Detroit, where Nannie Helen Burroughs was a saint. And my pastor knew and engaged with her. So there's so many other. What about Joanne Robinson, who was the woman who mimeographed the stuff in Montgomery? What about Ella Baker? What about Fannie Lou Hamer? What about so many other black women? Ida B. Wells Barnett, Mary Church Terrell, Septima Clark. You know, there's so many women who have, you know, Angela Davis, who have done tremendous work, Audre Lorde, Barbara Smith, who have done incredible work that we never give credit for. And we have got to challenge ourselves to stop it. We got to stop the gender stuff. We got to stop the gay and lesbian stuff. We got to stop the young people stuff. We got to say whosoever will, that has been given breath by God, who loves God and God's people, and black folk got to be permitted to and tolerated to serve and to do the best they know how. So I think that's how we begin to address and answer that as well. All right. Let me get the rest. I know people are, I'm a speed. We're going to do some speeds ones now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sierra Tony, a recent graduate of Bennett College for women.
All right.
And my question is about the double consciousness of race and religion as a black Christian, and how and it's not meant to derail like how we talk about how we deal in our own community,
right?
But to kind of shift focus to like the greater community of the world,
right?
So you mentioned that our spiritual experience is like affected by the political climate and limitations, et cetera,
right?
And that you start your criticism of President Obama with love.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, the Bible says love your enemies, your oppressors as well. Mm-hmm. The Bible says be wise. Mm-hmm. So how do we as black Christians do that in an active and daily way, in ways that are healthy for our community? Because sometimes people mean love as concede to or praise, but
right.
How do we do that healthily?
No, it's a brilliant question. You learned a whole lot down there at Bennett, boy. Woo! It's a great question. Look, love is as love behaves, right? Remember Dr. King would spend all that time talking about agape love and philia love and what's the other one? Eros, thank you. Interesting. So, you know, all the different kind of loves, right? Look at even when Jesus is asking Peter, do you love me? Peter gets sad. Remember that story? Do you love me? Peter gets sad again. Do you love me? See what I'm saying? Because the first two times he's using less than agape, and Peter's kind of upset. Like, well, you know, then he gets to, do you love me deep down in your soul where you will sacrifice your existence for the truth that I reveal? So, you know, when black people start talking about the Bible and love and what God says, Jesus said it came down to two things. Love everybody and God is yourself, and then, you know, love Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, love thy neighbor as thyself. He said everything else, all the law and everything else. We trying to focus on a whole bunch of other stuff, except that. And love ain't got no asterisk. And loving each other is critical. It's a religious duty. It's a religious duty of black people to embrace each other. Now, loving don't mean I agree with you. You don't mean you agree with me. I love Dyson, but he tripped out, he wrong, he crazy, he's narrow, I don't agree. Thank you. You can still love me, but don't dog me, don't put me down, figure out a way to help me, pray for me until I learn better, right? So love is critical, but you know, when we look at Corinthians 13 about the non-judgment, about what it doesn't do, we ain't into all that. We just want the selfish variety of love, the erotic intensity. Even the philia, which is a kind of reciprocal acknowledgement of human community, that's critical. But the agape love is about an unconditional affirmation of the other. And sometimes black people are ugly because we're ugly because we have been treated so foul. And look, I was on Twitter the other day, and the dude was coming at my neck, calling me all kind of names, and he ain't this, and I direct messaged him. I said, bro, what's up? Come on. Then we started talking, then it's all love. Because sometimes people just want acknowledgement. They want affirmation. They want you to know they exist. And so what we do for each other, to answer your question, it is a religious impulse. All this stuff we do in churches about love and all this, if you ain't trying to help nobody and try to change the community in which you live and they live, your religion is really empty. It has nothing to do with God, ultimately, or the transformation of human community. In that sense, it's a waste of time. So if you trying to have debates theologically, whether I should be baptized in the name of Jesus only or in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, I'm not saying that doesn't have doctrinal importance and it doesn't have theological value, but it's relatively marginal to deeper issues about how do we help human beings come to an awareness that they are children of God and therefore worthy of respect. So love for me is the organizing and motivating principle that allows me to transcend my religious basis to deal with other people, A, who don't believe in God at all, and B, who believe in God but one different than mine. How do I find common ground with them? Love becomes the way. To me, justice is what love sounds like when it speaks in public. And so that's the translation that I think is very important. If that answers your question at all. Yes, thank you. Up top, yes, sir. Ma'am. Sir, yes.
Were any of your family members involved in the civil rights movement, which encouraged you to become an activist?
What a brilliant question. What a brilliant question. How old are you?
12.
How old are you?
Oh, 12.
12. Wow. That's a great future right there. That's a great future right there. To answer your question, no, sir. Not at all. Let me tell you what happened to me. It's a great point you're making. When I was 9 years old, there was a riot in Detroit. And I was asking my mother, why are black people like coming down the street with TVs and got money in their afros? And how can I get some of that? I mean, but skies were turning gray with trails of clouds from smoke, and it was horrible. Curfew in Detroit. Then white people fled to the suburbs. Next year, Martin Luther King Jr. died. That was yanking me out of the cocoon of my innocence. I discovered who Dr. King was. I had never heard of Dr. King when he died when I was 10 years old. Well, it was in April '68, so I was 9 years old. When I was 9, when Martin Luther King Jr. got killed, I had never heard of him. I was sitting on the floor, my father in his favorite chair, and the regular news was interrupted. We're sorry to report today that in Memphis, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. They didn't say he was killed yet, said he was shot on a hotel balcony. And my father went, It's one of those painful expressions that communicated so much more than what it said. So, young man, I was asking my mother, which one is he? I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight, we as a people will get to the promised land. And I was riveted. I was like, who is this man? So I spent my little money, had a little 45 record player, sent off for Dr. King's speeches, and I memorized all of them because they were so important. If you want us to end our moves into communities, open these communities. I'm tired of marching for something that should have been mine at birth. I mean, and then I started listening to him and started studying him and read Lerone Bennett's book, What Manner of Man? So that was the experience. And let me tell you something else, though. I was 9 years old. We had an upstairs in our little ghetto house that had a balcony off from the bathroom upstairs. For 1 to 2 years, I was afraid to take, what we used to call wash-ups in the sink because I thought somebody was going to shoot me. Now, my brothers, and you know how black people clown with you. My brother's like, you ain't no leader. Negro, don't nobody know you. That's so hard. That's so hard. I needed Dr. Kevin then to help me out, man. I was hurt. I was traumatized. Because I thought if they could do it to him, they could do it to me. And if they shot him for no other reason that he wanted love, I felt vulnerable. I did. So for a year or two, I couldn't even wash up because I thought somebody might shoot me as well. And I identified with him and studied his life And I've now since written 2 books on Dr. King, and that was the significant moment that transformed me to let me know, even if you're a minister, and then I was interested in Malcolm X and reading his autobiography, you could be a holy person, a holy man, a person involved in the clergy, but you also had to become active in your society, and it drew out from that particular element. Thank you, sir. Great question. Great question. Over here. Yes, sir.
Dr. Dyson, Eric Jones. You already touched on my question, but I've been standing here for a long time with my back hurting and my knees stiff, so I figured I'd ask anyhow.
All right.
My question is, can you speak more on your thoughts on how Du Bois's double consciousness manifested within Barack Obama's presidency? And also, could it be asserted that President Obama wrestles with a triple consciousness between his American, African-American, and...
African.
Yeah, African identity.
Yes, sir. No, it's a great point, another great point. He does wrestle with Du Bois's double consciousness insofar as Du Bois, in that famous statement, in that paragraph or 2 from The Souls of Black Folk, says a couple things. He says, the Negro doesn't want to bleach himself in an ocean of whiteness. And he says, the black person doesn't want to take away the legitimacy of America because America has taught so many things to black people. And at the same time, we want to share our gifts with the white world. So Obama wants to look beyond the vicious limits that have been imposed on him as a result of his race, even from black people, right? The gentleman's question earlier about, limiting questions about blackness. Sometimes we limit ourselves. Obama said, I'm not going to be limited. Rooted in, but not restricted by blackness. Appreciate blackness, love it, but I want to range far beyond it. I want to explore every gift I have, and my blackness can be shown by my willingness to be experimental, to open myself beyond the narrow, lethal limits of blackness. And in that sense, he's living out the Du Boisian paradigm. Your point about triple consciousness is beautiful, powerful. An African father, white mother from Kansas, and then in Hawaii where they initially lived, and then in Indonesia. So he's got that global consciousness, but there's something I didn't touch on, though, is that what Obama has done to black Americans, he's also done to Africans, right? That first year after he got elected, he went to Turkey, went to Cairo. He was apologizing. You know what the Republicans said? He's engaging in an apology tour. He says, what we have done to you is wrong. What? American president saying that we did something wrong? He says, we apologize for what we've done. It's wrong. We didn't appreciate what Europe was about, what France was about. Oh, my God. He goes to Turkey. He says, we're not at war against Islam. We appreciate what you've struggled with. You get to Africa, what did he say? Stop complaining about colonialism. Wait a minute. You done gave all these great speeches, and then you get to Africa, and you telling people, for the last 15 to 20 years, America nor the West is responsible for you. You must have good governance and stop being corrupt. Huh? You ain't said that in Turkey, in Cairo. You ain't said that ain't nowhere else. All over Europe, but you get to Africa. That's what I'm telling you. I done the study. You can be mad at me. Look at it for yourself. Because when I read it, I'm like, please don't tell me that you went to Africa with the same stuff. And then when they came here for the African Summit, he said the same thing. He don't be lecturing other people. Now you can say on the one hand, you can do stuff to your own that you can't do to others. I get it. But part of doing stuff to your own is also representing your own. And he doesn't have that reciprocity. So there is a triple consciousness. Because but a lot of people in Africa are disappointed with Obama as well. They thought, oh my God, now he will rise up and represent us. No, dog, it ain't like that. He is an American, right? But he talks about Africa. He said, what did he say? I know more about Africa than anybody who's occupied this White House. It ain't hard, dog. Okay, that one ain't hard to do. All right, tell us something different. We grading you on a curve. That's no. So he does, but you suspended what George Bush was doing in Africa. George Bush was doing some great stuff in Africa. Obama ain't continued none of it, right? So I'm telling you that harshness that comes out of him Because the audience is not black people, it's white people looking at a black man talking about black people. And don't act like you don't know that. Don't act like you don't get that. Don't act like you don't understand why that could be true. And therefore, we understand and forgive, because black people have preventive forgiveness. We have advanced forgiveness, right? We have forgiveness knowledge. We already know how you're going to mess up, but we forgive you in advance because we feel like, let me give you an example. The stuff that happened with Obama. Black people forgave him in advance. What are he going to say? Yes, God darn America. That's a good statement to make for the president of the United States of America. We know he couldn't say that. So black people forgave him in advance. Okay, dog, we understand. We still love Jeremiah Wright. That's our guy. But we love him in times when you ain't running for president. When you're running for president, we just want him to be ixnay on the language, eh? Chill out a little bit. Don't say stuff that's gonna mess my man up. We understand stuff you said in the past. That's what black prophets do. But don't say nothing else. So when he went to the press conference at the National Press Club, that was tough. Because black people like, dang. You know, like Florida, darn, James. Like, we knew you had to say this stuff in the past. But now that's new stuff. Please don't undermine my man. So there's a triple consciousness there, but there's a triple consciousness that operates in a complicated fashion. There's an interactive triple consciousness, and I think as a result of that, Obama is torn betwixt and between 2 and 3 other options that have to be accounted for. But it's a great point that you made. Yes, sir. We're almost done, y'all. I feel like Russell Simmons. Thanks for coming. Goodbye. All right. In the middle. Moni, yes, in the middle. Okay.
Sir, my name's Javen Peterson. Thank you again for just extending your time with us today.
Yes, sir.
And sir, I just had a question regarding our position as leaders and moving forward as a country, as a nation, and the impact of a church. You spoke about the infrastructure of the United States and the wealth of the United States being built on the backs of slaves. And that made me think about the Israelites. And we know that as they built, God was with them and brought them out. And I see that even in what's going on in our country. You spoke about the churches, the success of the black church, the reach of the black church. And it just made me think that perhaps that we may even be those Israelites, and that with God with us, maybe there are many things that we can do and will continue to do. And then you just spoke about love, the young lady from Bennett, and then you spoke about forgiveness. It made me think, what if through our measure of forgiveness, we were blessed by God in ways that we couldn't imagine? And one of those foundational places to begin that forgiveness would be in forgiving the United States for slavery as black people, and what that might look like in a sort of a new paradigm change, instead of trying to push against, but to open-hand it and forgive and then see how God would bless us. I'm just interested in your thoughts on that, sir.
Well, I think black folk already forgave him. We ain't Al-Qaeda. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, the fact we ain't blowing you up and dropping bombs on you is pretty much forgiveness, right? And your point is brilliant. Let me tell you, first of all, it's a brilliant exegetical moment, it's a brilliant interpretive moment, and it's a brilliant theological moment. But I want to come back with a kind of practical, a kind of practical rationality to pervert Kant. And for me, black people have lived the forgiveness. We know in South Africa the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. But first of all, what did they do? You got to tell the truth first. You got to say what you did. This morning in Peterburg, we killed 14 Negroes. Right? They're going to talk about what they did. Blew up Stephen Biko, killed the people. Soweto, what they did. I mean, horrible stuff. But it had to be a cleansing. America ain't even talk about what they did. Right? We got to argue about whether it really happened. Like you're trying to make us believe it didn't really happen. That's the problem with Obama, too. He goes along with the inclination of America to be amnesiacs. Now, I know he can't go around talking about this what you did, but he could at least help us leverage the authority of awareness about the past, not to point fingers, but to move forward. Gore Vidal said we live in the United States of amnesia. And we're addicted to that forgetfulness. So, sir, I believe that black people have practically forgiven America for so much. You know how Sade, the great theologian, she said, I gave you all the love I had. I gave you more than I could give. Did you ever listen to that Sade song? Now, let me give you a little, okay, just to show you I'm not just Beyonce. Me and Eric Holder went to see Sade. Don't get mad. Me and Eric Holder went to see her afterward. We think women were there, but we're not sure. They claimed later on they were, that knew us, that were married to us. And we're not sure. They claimed they were there, but we don't know. So Eric Holder and I went down. I was like, you the attorney general, man, come on. Let's go up in there. Went up in there. And so Miss Helen Fuller Sade Adu said, I have scarcely met two more distinguished men in my life, save perhaps my father. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Is that what Sade said? I said, that's what she said about me, Doc. What did she say about you? So Holder and I took pictures. This is no lie. He took a picture of her, with her. We both took a picture together. I said, send me yours. He sent me his. I was cut out. And immediately I sent him mine, and he was cut out. So I said, we black men, we doing our thing. That theological veracity, I gave you all the love I had. I gave you more than I could give. I don't even understand how I could do it. Some women, talking about loving women. I mean, I know this from personal experience, the stuff that I have been unworthy of receiving, loyalty and fidelity, when having trampled on it, and the woman who embodies the task and the symbol of it, and yet the recipient of that forgiveness by the action of still being there. Now, America has trampled on us the same way. We have already enacted the most profound measure of forgiveness by everyday striving to add to and not distract from the culture, to enhance its goals and aspirations, and the willingness to give our lives in service for this nation. So you are making me believe and rethink the proposition of forgiveness in a more fundamental fashion. We have enacted that. Just because we haven't said forgive, we have already enacted that forgiveness. The question is, will America apologize to Negroes for the stuff that went down? And despite the absence of that, Bill Clinton came up with one in Africa and so on, a little bit complicated. But despite the absence of that, we have shown a consistent commitment to this nation. James Baldwin said, I love America more than any other nation on earth, therefore I reserve the right to judge her perpetually, to criticize her perpetually. And so in that sense, we have lived the ethic of forgiveness in such a profound fashion. And what I meant when I started there, when I said we ain't turned into, we could have been poisoning water streams, killing folks systematically, coming at folk with pot snots and shots and snipe. We didn't do that. We believed in love, not only for the sake of love itself, but as a strategy, as we saw in Selma, because they could kill us and murder us and so on, but we also made our peace with the necessity of arguing from within the context and trajectory of America, even as we vented our resentments, our griefs, our burdens, and our profound disappointment with this nation. So I think that there is nothing we have to do in order to argue for that forgiveness except to acknowledge we have, and then use that as the basis for understanding how our politics can be changed and transformed, and demand responsibility of the people with whom we're associated politically. I hope that begins to answer some of what you said. Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes,
Hi, I'm Juanita McLeod. And last week you spoke on the effectiveness of white supremacy. And you talked about other things and about black conservatives. So I want to know your opinion or how you feel about appropriation. Sometimes I feel that we as black people, we denounce so many things in our culture and it becomes stereotypes, and then we get embarrassed by it. And so while we're trying to, I think, appropriate, they're taking our culture and claiming it. And I'm like, our junk always seems to be their treasure, and I just wanted to see your opinion on that.
Yeah, you preaching, man. I mean, our junk is their treasure. They selling chitlins on the open market, futures. Okay. right? You made a brilliant point there, too. The stuff we're embarrassed by, right? That's why they got all the chicken. No, okay. So, right, Kentucky Fried Chicken, that ain't a black man. Churches, we ain't got no chicken. Popeyes, what black establishment owns chicken? Reminds me of Undercover Brother. I don't know if y'all saw that or not, right? So, but think about it, our culture, hip-hop, don't like it, don't want to deal with it. It's a phenomenon that's passing a lot of older people. I was there, I saw it. You know, a lot of people try to pretend, why don't you speak about something political? Well, when Chuck D was doing that, you didn't dig it either. Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant to me straight up racist. The sucker was simple and plain. Him and John Wayne, already I'm hyped because I'm am. Most of my heroes don't appear on no stamp. Sample look back, you see nothing but rednecks and racists for 400 years. Don't worry, be happy was a #1 jam. You can slap me right now if I say it again. Black people weren't going, this is the embrace of a political aesthetic that needs to be expressed in the context of young juvenile culture. No, turn that noise down. So now, the thing we started out of Reagan's revolution against black people and brown people and poor people, using the technology that was left over, fooling around helping white kids in the suburbs and fooled around and discovered 2 turntables together. Oh my God, and now we got a multi-billion-dollar industry. And we didn't want to hear from these kids. Now we want them to be socially respectable and responsible when we wouldn't even support them. And yet now, Logic is rapping and white folk are rapping and they've appropriated our culture. Miley Cyrus is twerking and even Taylor Swift is taking our music. Haters gonna hate, players gonna play. Selling 1.2 million albums in a weekend. Beyonce selling 877,000. Beyonce, the coolest thing in the world in terms of entertainment. But our culture, because we are ambivalent about it, the stuff we don't like, we reject, somebody picks up and appropriates it. Started with jazz too. You know, jazz was born in the brothel. Black people who were middle class didn't like jazz. Are you kidding? Now that's all middle class Negroes do. Oh, we like jazz. That's the music of our culture. Really? Because when those Negroes, after the Harlem Renaissance, went over to those European musicians, those classically trained musicians in Europe, they said, why are you coming here when you have Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington? We don't know nothing. They leaving the people who are the geniuses back home because we're taught not to love our culture. We're taught not to love what we produce. I ain't saying everything we produce got to be good. You got to be critical of it. Some of it is great. It's like with any other music. A little bit of it is great. A lot of it is interesting, and a lot of it is whack. That's any music, right? So the thing is, not only with music, but with culture, with politics, with style, you know, we don't love dark-skinned black women in our own community, and then a lot of white men, Robert De Niro and others. He got a lot of black women. Serially, and not at the same time. He married real sisters. He ain't married no, you know what I'm saying? Robert De Niro came up to me once with my book, Why I Love Black Women. He goes, you know, I could have written that. I said, dude, far better than me. I'm sure you could have wrote a better book than me because you done had more experience with all kind of black women. I understand that, right? So we diss and dismiss, we demonize and really peripheralize the stuff that we have ambivalence about. Look at what happened in the early part of the 20th century. All those newspapers that Negroes had. Amsterdam News, the Chicago Defender. All of them were filled with black people dogging these country bumpkins that were coming from Alabama and Georgia in black newspapers. You think Bill Cosby's rough? Oh my God. They were horribly disposed against these poor people. Why? Because they felt that they were not sufficiently intelligent or couth. The politics of respectability have been going on a long time in black America, right? Professor Higginbotham of Harvard talks about this in her book, Righteous Discontent. When she's speaking about black women and the church movement in Baptist worlds, about the respectability of how we should behave. We don't like that dress that you ghetto Negroes do. That's been going on from the beginning. And black folk have been styling from the beginning, trying to show we're going to wear our Sunday best because you denied us in slavery with our glad rags. Now we're going to dress up and do it. Not Negroes in blue from Chicago or red from Detroit or vice versa, I don't know. Right, we can tell that loudness, that proudness, that what we do with how we stylize our bodies. So it is true we're taught to hate and despise what becomes commodified and what becomes part of a culture of, extraordinary benefit. Look at even the so-called low-slung plans. How come we couldn't even commercialize off of that? Capitalize off of that? Tommy Hilfiger making millions of dollars over us slinging down our pants. Because, man, why you got your pants down? I ain't mad, but at least at the same time, make some of them, produce some of them, and then own that, because Negroes gonna wear them regardless or irregardless. They're gonna wear them. So there is the tendency in our culture to be ambivalent about, I'm not saying everything is good. I'm not saying we can't be critical. I'm saying that part of it is class-driven, part of it is regional, and part of it is gender, but part of it is about the self-hatred of blackness and how it performs in public spaces that others then begin to accept and embrace and celebrate in a fundamental fashion. You're absolutely right. And we got to continually ask ourselves the question of appropriation. And then when we see Justin Timberlake, look, Justin Timberlake is gifted, but why you leave Janet under the bus? See what I'm saying? Because you pulled the thing off of Janet. She ain't did it herself, right? You did that. And that same breast that you find offensive used to feed your children and suckle your civilization. Huh? And when the black breast went to work for itself and had a union, you found that problematic. But when it was for your purposes, it was reinforcing your values. So the same black sexuality that was demonized was used, raped, pillaged, and plundered to found the civilization that now casts aspersion on it. And black tropes and ideas of sexual purity were to guard against the ways in which white people would judge us unfairly and unjustly. But as a black response, we began to put forth the politics of respectability. So we have to be aware of that to really try to fight those off. All right? Thank you. Up top.
My bad. All right. I'm gonna take a page out your book. I'm gonna start with love, and then I'm gonna hold you accountable.
Hold me accountable.
So, my name is Adam Inyang, and I'm a part of Black Youth Project 100, and I'm also part of Black Lives Matter DMV here in this area.
Okay.
Now, I don't know your resume. I'm not privy to it, but I have heard your name in my household growing up, so hats off to that. But my question is, what beyond rhetoric and beyond public addresses have you contributed to this new freedom movement of these young people? Because I've been out here in these streets. I've been out here shutting down 395, shutting down these streets, shutting down, the Exodus movie premiere in the Gallery Place. I've been shoulder to shoulder with Ferguson protesters out here demonstrating. I've been doing a lot of stuff. I've sat in on meetings with Muriel Bowser, the mayor in D.C. I've sat in on other meetings with other council people and done a lot of things here in this area.
Yes,
I ain't
sir.
even been here a year. I just moved up here. But and before that in Georgia, I was still just as active. But so my question is, please inform me on your resume, because I'm not privy to it.
Well, it's available. Don't be lazy, study it. All right, that's number one. I hear you. So I'm publicly accessible. I'm not an unknown commodity. You are right to and first of all, thanks for starting in the love too, bro. But I can't pretend like you done all that stuff, but you ain't studied. You haven't engaged. You don't know what I've been doing. You know 3-6 shutting down. Do you know Tef Poe? Do you know Phil Agnew from Dream Defenders? No doubt. When I was there on DuPont Circle with Black Lives Matter, with the movement, the sister who was the professor at University of Maryland, and the local came up to me, of course, and said, Dr. Dyson, I said, no, I'm here as a member of the community. I didn't want no special love. I was out in those streets. On 14th Street, where we started, and marched and shut down a whole bunch. So maybe you didn't recognize me because I didn't call my name, but I was right there with it, number one. But I'm gonna finish, I'll tell you what I did do, and I'll tell you why it ain't necessary I do that, except do my job. But let me start there. So I was there in the streets, in Black Lives Matter here. Then I was in the streets where I spoke for the great rally, where I gave sanction and love and support to the young people from Ferguson who appreciated me shouting them out at the Sharpton-led march, where I spoke. And I'll be glad to send you the video of that. But it was also cited in the newspaper, so if you Google it, you'll find me. Beyond that, I have spent the last several years writing and talking about Ferguson, because it would be akin to asking a person on the line, hey, all you've done today is produce cars because you work on the assembly line. What have you done to create hammers? I produce cars. That's what I do. Now, what I do, I am a public intellectual. So I speak intelligently and powerfully on television and radio, giving voice to the sentiments and passions of brilliant young people like yourself, joining with them, interviewing them on television, joining them in the streets, joining the Sharpton movement, which is different than, as you know, than the indigenous movement that was generated out of Ferguson with the people, and then in consultation with Ben Crump, the lawyer of Mike Brown, having met his parents who thanked me for the work I did. Sorry you missed it, but I'm glad they were able to acknowledge that. And joining with the people, Eric Garner's people, who took pictures with me to say, I'm grateful for what you did to continue to speak. And you fought Rudy Giuliani on television on Meet the Press. So while you were doing heroic work in the streets, I'm on the television where millions of people who have viewpoints about young black people shaped, arguing against the white supremacist ideas of a mayor in ways that went viral that made a difference. So I've been in the streets in DC. I've been with the local activists who are not part of this formal civil rights movement here. I've been with the civil rights movement here. I've been nationally involved. I've been writing in the New York Times and in the Washington Post, and I've been writing books and teaching classes. So that's pretty much what I've been doing to represent, and that's all right. I'm not mad at you, and I want to talk to you afterward. But it is incumbent. I know when you say, hey, I heard your resume and blah, blah, tell me your resume, you should be responsible for at least stepping up and checking that out and go, you know what, maybe I wouldn't say what I said if I knew what I knew, and I would check him out. Not that you shouldn't challenge me, you should just challenge me based upon knowledge. And when you do that, then you'll understand I'm your ally. I'm defending you, I'm speaking for you, even if you didn't choose me to do so, and I love what you represent. Keep representing. Let's talk after the church.
All right. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Nick, and I like to give you praise for keeping it real, And, my question is dealing with sports. Like you say, you told me Bob Gibson was your mentor, OJ was mine. I just want to know your opinion on the Marcel Lynch situation.
On the what?
Marcel Lynch, the running back for Seattle.
Yeah.
I just want to know your opinion about that. I'm not interested in what the ball with Ed went out the ball and all that. I'm interested.
You mean him getting fined?
Yeah, fined for the action of the goal line and all that, you know.
Oh, you mean what? Oh, when he did the.
Yeah.
The gesture.
The gestures. There you go, because it's not the first time.
Consume something that.
And you got kids watching, and you got my son that's really a sport fan, you know.
Oh, okay.
So I just want your input. I just want your input.
You going to look? You know when you in the heat of the battle. There's a lot of stuff you do. Remember Dick Allen? Y'all remember Dick Allen, who was y'all remember him? Was he a first baseman? Philadelphia Phillies. And he was a bad boy, but he didn't talk to the press. They thought he was surly, diffident, nasty. They didn't want to speak to him. And they give you a bad name if you're a black person. Now, white folk don't do it. What's the coach? Popovich. They'll interview him all day long. 50 words in the question. Popovich, today when you went about, no. Right? So it looks like you're a genius. Black people do it. Look at what Richard Sherman did on stuff, right? So to me, that's more important than the gesture. I know your kid's watching. I'm sorry your kid saw it. I'm sorry he grabbed his go. And I'm sorry that occurred. But you know what? The reality is, isn't it interesting? We ask people in the heat of battle to have a Q&A after they've done what they've done. Can you imagine? Professor Dyson, today you had a weak lecture. You missed several points that you should have said. And furthermore, the response of the students seems to be that you're fair to middling and that you should retool yourself and go back to the drawing board. How do you feel? Dang, that's kind of tough, right? So you asking somebody after I lost, or one, you asked me in the midst of the battle. That's why Sherrod Sherman, don't ever come to me with that. I'm the baddest, right? So it's hard on a field of battle where there's so much testosterone flying already. So a gesture like that is consonant with that. They say a lot of stuff behind the scene. A lot of people with clean images say a lot of dirty stuff. So I'm not trying to justify that, but I understand in the context of combat on the gridiron that Marshawn is a beast. You call him beast mode. That's part of his mode of bestiality. So he's going to be a beast on several levels. I'm sorry for your son. I hope you explained to him what that meant. And, many of us have done that outside of the view. And a lot of these kids are kids, 25, 26 years. They're still young. What is Richard Sherman, 25? It's amazing that we expect such maturity out of them, and most of the times they come through with it, but sometimes they don't. So I'm about forgiveness, and I'm about the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, and I'm about, right? And I'm about the representation of black masculinity in complicated ways. And Russell Wilson, but not Russell Wilson, yeah, he's a bad boy too. I mean, that alley-oop, that's what it was, an alley-oop. It's hard to beat Jesus when Jesus determined you're going to win. You score 15 points in 44 seconds. That's Jesus, dog. You're not playing Aaron Rodgers. You're playing against the Holy Ghost. Huh? You back here running and throw an alley-oop. Oh, just throw it. And the dude catches it who has got 3 interceptions on the day. Then you make a touchdown, then you do the offside kick and hit the dude in his helmet. That's Jesus. And then you got a fake punt, a field goal, and then you get a touchdown. That's the Holy Ghost. I'm sorry. That's not fair. And I used to be one of these Negroes. I mean, why you keep praying to God? God don't care about the game. God clearly cared about that game. So for me, Marshawn Lynch is to be forgiven, man. I'm sorry. That's how I roll with it, Yes, sir. Last question. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Dr. Rice.
How you doing, love?
It is an honor to have you here. Thank you for all you do for us, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Ethel, and I heard on the radio that the former D.C. Mayor Barry / City Councilman of Ward 8 was working on some programs prior to his death. So I wanted to know if you could bring clarity to what those programs were and what they're doing to implement them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't speak definitively to that. I'd have to defer to people who are working directly with him. I know part of what the mayor, and I knew him pretty well, and what he was the mayor for life, and that's a great example. I'm just glad you mentioned his name, because that's an example of us protecting somebody who deserved to be protected, because he's getting dissed by everybody else. And the man was a great mayor in D.C. I mean, when he came in and they got mad at him because he was giving black folks some of the stuff that they were getting all the time. How that gonna be wrong? How that gonna all of a sudden be a problem when you done been getting everything? See, when people are used to getting it all and you gotta share even some of it, you just get real resentful and real nasty with it. And Marion Barry came out of SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was a social revolutionary who transferred his allegiance to politics because he wanted to make a difference the same way Obama did. Obama said, I'm a community organizer. I can't do but so much here. I got to get into politics. Same thing for Marion Barry. So when he became mayor, he began to make the argument that the poorest of citizens should be the recipient of the greatest bounty. And that's what he was doing at the time of his death. Every time I saw him, last time I saw him, we were at the looking at Venus Williams at the tennis match, because Mayor was everywhere. I saw him in the club one night. I was doing research, and I'm glad Howard John Wesley ain't here. I was doing research at the club, looking at the mating rituals of call and response. that go along with, hey, shorty, what's your name? And saw him up there, posted up. I was like, Mayor, you everywhere. Like Jay-Z said, I'm everywhere, you're never there. So this man was beloved of the people because he fought for everyday, ordinary citizens. And he fought on behalf of those who were most vulnerable. And the reason black folk loved him to the time he drew his last breath is because we knew that regardless of the situation, this man was going to stand up and speak for us. Did he make a mistake? Of course he did. You see what I'm saying? I mean, and he set me up. Remember that? One of the famous statements in the world, set me up. And he still came back. Talking about coming back. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Right? And he came back because we believe in second chances. There's a mayor in Providence, Rhode Island, done some crazy stuff, got reelected. So the reason we loved Marion Barry not is because we pretended that he never did any wrong. We knew everybody else was doing wrong too, and we knew that he represented the interests of the people in the best way. God rest his soul and bless his memory. And we can find more specific stuff, but I know in general that's what he was doing. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Now comes the time to once again thank Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. And I think it's important to say that we all can acknowledge the gift, but we want to take a moment to acknowledge the work and the discipline that goes into producing 18 juried publications. That this is not just someone with a gift, but someone who has worked hard so that we benefit from this fine mind. So we want to thank God for that. Thank you. Thank you.